Hello, everybody. So I'm here with an official representative of the Communist Party of China, Nazbol, aka Serp Kerp. So I just wanted to start off with an official message from the Chinese Party of the Communist Party of China. They just wanted to say
I am in control.
they just wanted to tell you that they are in control, and that if this whole thing doesn't work out, what they will do is
Drown them in flames!
okay. So that being said, voice drops out of the way. Thanks for coming on, Serp. You've really been posting a lot on your Twitter in particular, just about like all the stuff that's been happening.
Yeah, I don't know. I followed the West African Ebola thing when it happened pretty intensely, and I've been following this as soon as it came under my radar pretty intensely for the past week. I don't. Everything that's coming around here, it's very disconcerting. I don't, on paper, SARS was supposed to be much scarier, supposed to have a kill rate of like 9.6 or something, and it infected 8,000 people. The infection rate on this is far more exponential than SARS. The reported kill rate right now is about 4%. You see, when you with something like the Spanish flu and this coronavirus, they're in what you might call a sweet spot of infection. That's where it can infect people, or it has a gap where it can easily infect people without the people dying. With Ebola, even if Ebola is the most dangerous disease for human beings, or amongst the most dangerous diseases for human beings, Ebola is so dangerous that it burns itself out. In Africa, so in I don't know if you know this right now, there's a massive epidemic of Ebola in Congo. The thing is, it's not considered major international news because Ebola is so dangerous that it just can't spread and become a pandemic. It's not controlled in the Congo right now.
So what you're saying is Plague Inc. is a accurate representation of how diseases work in real life?
I've never played Plague Inc.
Oh, okay. Because if you make your disease too dangerous too quick, it won't spread because it'll just kill everybody?
Yes, exactly. That's why the Ebola... So in West Africa... Well, Ebola is a bodily fluid spread.
Which is
very,
a lot more difficult.
Yes.
Has there been like a huge scale disease that's bodily fluid?
Black Plague.
Oh, Black Plague. Oh, right. So
Possibly Black Plague.
I
think Black Plague might have been Ebola or Ebola type family virus.
Just generally speaking, it seems to be most mass infective disease, like apocalyptic scale ones, are aerial transmitted.
Yes. This is at least droplet-borne, human-to-human contact confirmed. It may be airborne. There are mutations. They have found, I don't know if you know this, but they found evidence of non-symptomatic strains have mutated already, which is extremely dangerous. That means that there are people walking around that are infecting other people right now. They are not symptomatic themselves.
Sorry, just one sec. Just if you're having trouble hearing me or Serp, just let me know and I'll rebalance the audio. I just can't really tell, obviously. So with regards to the fatality rate, I'm just going to go and say it. I don't really believe anything the Chinese government says.
Okay, do you know that much about SARS when it happened?
No, I just remember it was a really big thing in Canada.
The Chinese government deliberately obscured all information about SARS for months until it spread into Canada and Singapore.
Right.
The thing about this is that this is spreading much faster than SARS is. That's what's so disconcerting about this.
How was SARS transmitted?
Same way. I mean, SARS had 8,000 people, This has 1,500, and that in the 1,500 is in less than a week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is 1,500 confirmed. Have you been on Twitter at all, watching WeChat leaks and live leaks and stuff?
No, I haven't actually.
Um, okay. There's a few viral videos. One of the more famous ones that got subtitled today is a leak of a nurse in Wuhan, the main city that's under quarantine. The nurse is complaining about the working conditions of nurses, and she says that there are over 100,000 people that are likely infected.
Right.
There's another nurse. See, because we don't know if these are real, and I can't speak Chinese. I have to trust the subtitle or what people have written around them. There's another nurse saying that there's likely 900,000 people infected. There are various rumors that Hong Kong is going to be quarantined within. The announcement will occur during this live stream, I believe. I think at like 6:00 a.m. Hong Kong time. There's going to be an announcement about the status of the city.
So is this like a Genius 40 chess plan to like get the media out of Hong Kong so they can crush the protests?
No, that's like actually really. This makes it really, 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 really bad because the chaos in Hong Kong means it probably won't be contained, and there's so low levels of trust in the government in Hong Kong that the people will actively fight against the quarantine even stronger than they are in Wuhan. In Wuhan, there's been video images of people on skyscrapers watching crowds of people trying to escape the city. That's one of the viral videos.
Yeah, hasn't like huge numbers of people broken out past the blockade?
I don't know. I know that there's been footage of military deployments around Wuhan. They're building a military-grade field hospital outside the city,
Right.
and there's been footage of bulldozers destroying highways. I don't know where those are at.
They've yeah, because I was seeing some videos and it looked like is there like a food shortage now inside the city?
Yes, that's the thing. I don't know what's going to happen with these. Because if you cause enough panic or if these diseases become big enough, it could lead to famines. From my understanding, and there's numerous reports, and I haven't seen any Chinese government documents, and according to people online, there's at least 15 cities that are currently under quarantine whose total populations are around the same 35 million, which is about the same amount of people that live in Canada.
Right, but like I guess to me the whole issue with this is especially now when the Chinese government's facing a lot of international and I guess national criticism over Hong Kong, I feel like they have more of a motivation to cover things up than ever.
Mm-hmm.
And that like if they lied about SARS when I don't think there was any like big internal thing going on at the time, that they're really
well. We know that they. I mean, it's high. I'm 99% sure that they initially lied about this. I mean, you've obviously seen Jaws, right?
Yep.
You know how the mayor says, "Well, it doesn't matter if the shark's in the water. I don't care. The money that the city's going to get is worth it."
Right. The economic growth rate needs to grow by that extra 0.1%.
Yes. We don't care if this coronavirus is a threat, basically. We need the holiday boom of the Lunar New Year. And until the very hair before the Lunar New Year began, they didn't talk about it. Then people started transporting, and then they announced it during Lunar New Year itself. I have a pen pal who traveled around in China. I mean, millions and millions and millions of people travel. This is the Chinese Christmas. Are you streaming that map?
Yep.
There is confirmed cases in every single province right now. The entire country is infected. Even in places like
in
Outer
Shanghai,
Mongolia and Taiwan.
like Shanghai
There's
has
multiple
it.
cases in Shanghai and in Hong Kong.
There's multiple cases in Vietnam now.
There's multiple cases in most East Asian countries.
There's a couple in France. Um, it looks like in Canada. Does Canada? I think has no. Canada doesn't.
Canada might have one. There's been various rumors of a potential one in Toronto,
The U.S. has two now.
Seattle, and Chicago.
Right. I don't see any in Russia though. Interestingly, Japan has one.
I don't know if there's that much between Russia and China. What's really interesting is the one in Nepal. It's like Africa. If it happens in Nepal, you can't contain it. There's no infrastructure. The country's too. It's like very bottom tier, third world infrastructure.
Oh, Nepal's like a fifth world country.
Yeah.
It's like. So, is there any chance this could spread to Africa?
Yes. I mean, there's a chance it can spread to anywhere. You have to realize is that if it's out of control, it can just So let's say if it gets out of control in China, obviously, from the videos that have been over Twitter, Live Leak, WeChat, and so on and so forth, there's mass panic going on. I don't think that the people collapsing in the streets are. Let's assume that the Chinese government is right and the CDC messing around with the virus is right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the symptoms are right. These people that are fainting in the streets don't have coronavirus. They're panicking and hysteria, and they're fainting out of fear. So there's mass hysteria going on in China.
How is that better?
No, it's much worse. Because if there's hundreds of thousands of people that get it, China will be overrun with mass hysteria, and you're going to see, like, a country like Vietnam is not going to be able to expel hundreds of thousands of Chinese people from its borders. They're going to see Chinese people stream into Vietnam and other countries.
Isn't there going to be mass riots eventually, like in?
Yes, I think that's part of the reason that Hong Kong's so bad, because there'll probably be riots. There's all these rumors that Hong Kong is going to be shut down. So letter to Hong Kong scheduled at 8:15 a.m. Hong Kong time. So what is that? That is 6:15 my time. I think that's like 9:15 your time or 8:15 your time, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is planned to read out. They're planning to read out Secretary for Food and Health. Oh, I think it got canceled. Never mind.
Sorry, what's the name of the city again that they shut down?
Wuhan.
So in Wuhan, they're going to have to start shooting people at some point, because if there's like a major food
we don't
shortage,
know if they aren't.
No, but I mean, like, past a certain point, if there's literally no food, they're going to start rioting. People are going to start saying, like...
Yeah, have you seen the videos of the grocery stores there?
Okay. They're going to start rioting and start attacking the army. And
yes, well, here's the thing with that. If you quarantine 35 million people...
You can't.
You can't feed them. That's too many people. You can't feed them. What's so scary about this is the Chinese government is in complete panic meltdown.
Also, the Chinese government is extremely corrupt and incompetent, and obsessed with image over substance. Like, isn't there a big thing that's going on where they're trying to blame like everyone's trying to blame each other? And
yes, that's what happened in SARS too.
And to try to save face, like, a lot of stuff isn't really happening. I mean, China is so dense. It has such bad hygiene. The government... Argent, they didn't admit that it was human-to-human contact until a few days ago. It's kind of like what happened in South Africa, where the government claimed HIV didn't lead to AIDS for like a decade. For political reasons.
Well, okay. Here's the thing about it. I don't. I think that China's over. That the only way that I think China is a lost cause. And to be honest, I think Southeast Asia, along with it, is going to be a lost cause. Um, the United States has to cut off all. Canada too has to cut off all aerial travel between
They
East
won't
Asia.
though.
They won't. The only way to stop this, if I was the World Health Organization, to spreading to other continents, is cutting off all air traffic between East Asia and other nations.
Because this is what happened in Canada with Ebola. Is they refused to suspend travel from Nigeria because they said it was racist. Um, so they're like, we can't do it because it's racism and it's discrimination to not allow people from plague zones to travel to Canada. So I can't see them actually doing it. I think you told me that the American government is pulling out their diplomatic personnel now.
Yeah, so yeah, in Hawaii, so in the city itself, Wuhan, they have a consulate there, and they've started to evacuate that consulate.
Are they evacuating other ones?
I don't know. During SARS, they evacuated Guangzhou and Hong Kong. So this is just announced today. I don't know. So Hong Kong is decided to close all its schools for the next 3 weeks.
Holy shit!
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
There's
sorry, just 1 second. According to this, Hong Kong says confirmed 5, suspected 240.
Yes,
That's a
yes,
huge number.
yes. Basically, I think that it's going that in a week from now, Hong Kong is going to have as many cases of Wuhan itself. Hong Kong is the if it gets to Hong Kong, it's in all of East Asia. Because that's what happened with SARS. SARS jumped to Canada, the rest of East Asia, most notably Singapore and Canada from there. I think that in the next week that Hong Kong is going to have as many cases as Wuhan.
And it's just going to keep. I don't know. It's at this point the Chinese government is either just going to have to go full Stalin and just start. I don't.
They have to declare martial law.
Just declare martial law and just start shooting people.
What
or like
the
bombing
United
shit.
States needs to do is end all. We need to end all air travel. Wait and see. And if it gets to the point, we should start rationing food in our own country if we have to feed China, so that the Chinese government doesn't go under.
I can't even imagine what kind of a clusterfuck. If there was a plague and the CCP, who I don't particularly like, but if they lost power during a crisis like this, you could see hundreds of millions of people like die in civil war and like a complete.
This is the
breakdown.
Chinese Chernobyl. This is the Chinese Chernobyl.
So there's a Chinese guy in the chat who's claiming that there's been no human-to-human cases recorded outside of China, so it's only going to spread within China.
We don't know that.
I don't get why it wouldn't spread elsewhere.
That
Also,
doesn't make any sense.
it's going to get really bad in Toronto because we have so many people. Like half my office took it off to go to China for Lunar New Year since the population of the GTA is like 20% Chinese or whatever. So,
Sorry.
so yeah, I think it's going to spread throughout East Asia.
I don't know how. So I was planning to go on a trip in March to Denver, and I decided against it today. That's how serious I think this is.
So, at the moment, they claim there's 1,400. So you think there's 100,000 cases?
No, I don't think there's 100,000. Those are WeChat leaks of nurses claiming there to be 100,000.
Because
those could be fakes or what do you call it? Like
exaggerations.
in the exaggerations or creepypasta somebody made. But I would say 10,000 is a likely number. You have to realize that there was 900 when I went to bed, and there was 1,400 when I woke up.
I'm sure it's much higher than that. I mean, if it's spread beyond the initial place,
it's in every province now.
Does quarantining even really? I guess it would spread faster if you had hundreds of thousands of people fleeing. But like you said, the idea that there's like massive numbers of people dropping in the streets from stress and fear is really disturbing. That's like as bad as it being from a disease. You're getting mass hysteria on that level.
Mm-hmm. You haven't seen the video. I posted
I
channel.
saw it. I thought that was people from the disease.
No, I think it's people. Unless it really is some kind of escaped virus, like the conspiracy theory is saying, and the Chinese government is just claiming it's like SARS for some reason, and it really is the end of the world, which I don't believe. That's the only reason that people could be dropping in the streets like that. I think they're dropping out of, they're fainting out of fear, out of stress.
Mm-hmm. Once again, we don't know how bad things actually are.
We don't know how many people it's killing. I mean, people that have been resolved right there in the right-hand corner would be more than 50%. Those are total resolved cases in the upper right-hand corner.
Right. If that's to go on, like, I don't know, what was the mortality rate of the Black Death?
Probably like 60-70%.
Okay, I think that's probably like the highest, probably one of the highest in ever of a major disease.
Black Plague for Europe during the pandemic, the European and Middle Eastern pandemic in Central Asian. That'd be like probably 60. I mean, you couldn't have you'd have to have 100% of the people infected for it to kill 33%. So it had to be like 60 or 70% of people infected, and then half of them died.
Because, like, I know during the Black Death, Poland just quarantined itself and just killed anyone who crossed the border, and it was like the one place in Europe that was spared.
Mm-hmm. That's why.
Has Madagascar shut it down yet?
What do you mean?
Madagascar is kind of infamous for always shutting down their borders.
Oh. Well, the CDC has declared the highest travel risk right now.
But they haven't declared it a global health emergency yet.
Not yet. I mean, the WHO took months to declare SARS a health emergency.
What are the odds that the Chinese government is, like, pressuring them to not declare it?
Oh, I think they've been doing that.
You think they've been bribing
No, the Chinese government was directly during SARS. The Chinese government did directly bribe the government the WHO not to declare it a global health emergency for months.
So you think the WHO is just biting their tongue on this one because they're getting paid off and or threatened by the Chinese government?
Yes, I think the Chinese government is withholding knowledge from the World Health Organization to prevent them from declaring it a world health crisis.
Because, I mean, if we really wanted to put our backs into this, we could stop it from spreading in, like, Europe and North America. I mean, it would take a lot of money, and we'd have to, like, inconvenience a lot of people. But I think, like, at this point, whatever money it costs is worth it to not have outbreaks here.
Well, so like, my numbers are this, right? You want to pull up a calculator on
Sure.
OBS?
Okay, I have one just on OBS.
Okay, so type in 7.8 billion people.
Okay.
Okay, now multiply that by 0.1 because 10% of the world gets the flu every year.
Okay.
Okay, so you have 780,000 infections.
780 million.
780 million people would become infected in worst case scenario.
Yep.
Let's presume current death rate 4%. Isn't that around 35 million? 0.04?
I have 31.
Yeah, 31 million deaths. Okay. But we don't know what the death rate is outside of hospitalization.
Right. Well,
I don't know if you know. So do you know how this works?
no. Go on.
It causes severe pneumonia, which kills you.
Right.
So the thing is, if people aren't hospitalized, it might have a higher death toll than 4% because they wouldn't be able to get over the pneumonia without hospitalization.
Also, I'd imagine if it reaches a certain point that
You can't hospitalize people
that the death rate will just exponentially increase because you can't treat that many people.
Yes, that's why they quarantined Wuhan and just started building field hospitals outside the city.
Right. So, to a certain extent, 4% is completely theoretical. Let's pretend it is 4%. That's completely theoretical. And if it reaches like the hundreds of thousands or millions of people stage, it's going to dramatically rise because it's just not going to be possible. Now, I looked it up, and some group in Australia predicts that the earliest they could get a vaccine is 6 months.
That's pretty. That would be. I would assume that. But can they mass produce a vaccine within a year?
No, it's extremely optimistic for 6 months, and that they would only be able to give it to first responders.
Okay, there's a lot of hospital staff that died during SARS and are dying right now too.
So let's talk about where.
Okay, can I give you
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Okay, there's a document that's flying around that was posted by the former commissioner of U.S. Food and the Drug Administration. This document, Novel Contravirus on medarxiv.org, it gives an estimate. If the epidemic continues unabated, we predict 191,000 infections by February 4th. They estimate that only 5% of infections are identified.
What?
Yes, this is.
Doesn't it take a week to
to
gestate or whatever?
Yeah. This is from Yale.
Oh.
Yeah.
And they're saying that only 5. Well, that's a meaningless percentage.
Can I post this directly in the chat? I'm trying to. I don't know if it'll.
Oh, okay. 1 second. Let me just open my. Let me just open my.
It looks
Facebook.
like it went in.
Let me just open it. Send me the link. Oh, where did you post the link?
I'll send it to you on. I'll put it in the main chat on Ass.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know this website. I think it might be a serious preprint server for health. So this is medical papers that have not gone through peer review. Okay. This is pure preliminary work prior to peer review. This article.
Yep, are identified. In that 12,000 people have been infected. We predict the epidemic in Wuhan will be substantially larger by February 4th. Roughly 190,000 with a standard deviation going between 130 and 270. Let's see here. Our model suggests that travel restrictions from and to Wuhan City are unlikely to be effective in halting transmission across China, even with a 99% effective reduction in travel. reductions may only reduce the size of the epidemic by 25%. So let's talk a bit. So what do they think what's the conspiracy theory on this one?
Okay, so there's two medical labs, I think, that are military medical labs um, for biological diseases, research labs for diseases in Wuhan. The conspiracy theory is that it was released into the city via accident, and that it was a dangerous strain. Um, it that was either developed, which I would highly doubt that we can develop diseases like that currently from scratch, but was identified prior, and it was released from the facility like 28 days later, or the stand, or something like that.
See, that seems
I don't.
very possible.
I think it's possible. I don't. I'm not going to say I'm not going to say I believe it right now, but I'm going to say it's possible.
It's possible, perhaps even probable, because like I've seen time and again, like where the Chinese government has mismanaged these things, and like stuff has literally exploded, or they've created like giant lakes of toxic waste, or like just really ill-conceived, poorly carried out, catastrophic stuff. So, I mean, we could say it's like Resident Evil, and this was like something they made in a lab or something, like as a bioweapon. I don't think that's the case. I think it is very possible that this was a disease they were studying, and maybe they might have genetically altered it a bit. But my thought is just it's quite possible they just incompetent lab procedures led it to be released on the population.
And the thing about how fast this response is and the intensity of that response actually works with that conspiracy theory then. Because it would mean that they know exactly what happened.
So that's one theory. Um, the so do we know if it came from bats originally?
That SARS came from bats. It's the same. It's the same family of diseases as SARS, so it's very likely it came from bats.
So is it raw bats that they eat in China, or like?
I don't know. I haven't looked into that. I just know that they eat bats, and that bats are things that humans shouldn't eat.
Isn't that like the worst thing you can eat?
Yes.
Like bats are notorious for being like.
Well, bats already caused SARS, so it's very possible they caused this.
There's a lot of diseases bats cause. It's just something they really shouldn't. I don't know. So yeah, so eating bats.
I mean, the higher level of conspiracy theory here is that it was engineered, and that the stats are different, and that it caused. So there's been videos of like people having convulsions and stuff. It's more like Ebola or something like that. But I don't, and it's killing like higher rates of people.
People in the chat are saying there's another theory that it was transferred from snakes to bats to humans.
Yeah, the snake theory is also a thing.
Because I mean, how I tend to think about these things is whether or not a conspiracy of some description is like necessary. So like it's possible that it was from a lab, like that. There's nothing about that that's like kooky or tinfoil hatty or anything, but it's probably more likely it was just bad hygiene or poorly cooked food, or the Chinese eating things that they shouldn't have been eating, and that caused it.
According to the thread on 4chan, it's at 1,800 cases, not confirmed cases.
Okay, let me refresh this.
Is that one? That one's, I think, is pretty official.
Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know. I guess like the question we have to ask ourselves is what's going to be worse if this leads to some kind of breakdown of civil order in China, and whether how far the government will go, or what realistically they can really do at this point in time. I don't know, because enforcing quarantines on this scale, like I said, there's going to be starvation.
This has never occurred in human history.
There's going to be starvation. There's going to be riots. They're going to have to, if they can't feed these people, they're going to have to like gun them down. And you got to wonder how long the army is going to be able to do something like that.
Well, they don't. So, like, if you compared China to China doesn't have a drafted army.
Right.
China has an all-volunteer army because China is so big, right?
Mm-hmm.
If China's population is so big that this army is not actually proportionate to its population size,
mm-hmm.
like the U.S. has more soldiers proportionate to its population size, I believe.
Right.
So I don't, and these soldiers are being deployed immediately. These soldiers could be stretched thin if they're going to watch over that many people.
I don't know how big their paramilitaries are, though.
Oh, okay.
Okay, they have the most active personnel, but there's only 2 million active personnel and 500,000 reservists, which is like not very large at all, compared to a lot of countries. Like Russia has a bigger army. South Korea has a bigger army. The United States has a bigger army. Oh, no, sorry. The U.S. has a similar sized army. Sorry.
Okay. On Straight Times from Singapore from 45 minutes ago, they have 1610 confirmed cases and 54 confirmed deaths. So the map you're looking at isn't updated, right?
I'm gonna say I don't think it's like true, but the memes about them rewriting the Bible and then this immediately happening are pretty funny.
Yeah, I kind of saw that.
I thought that was kind of funny. Right. So I don't know. I don't know how big the security forces of the Communist Party are. Like, it's just.
Well, I mean, like a city like Hong Kong, how do you effectively curtail that? You're just going to blockade it by sea?
Well, how do you feed the population of Hong Kong?
You can't, that's why Hong Kong is in Chinese hands. You couldn't feed it like that.
What is the population of Hong Kong?
I think like 10 million.
7 million, 7.5 million. So they'd have to like if they'd have to airdrop it in. They'd have to airdrop in food for 7 million people. I don't know. I don't know what North Korea. North Korea will probably be okay. They don't.
I'm sure really, North Korea's already sealed out its border.
They don't really have a
transport border with China itself, don't they?
Yeah.
Not just South Korea.
Maybe we'll have Chinese like refugees running into North Korea. So, do you think there's going to be a Chinese... Okay, so let's say the worst happens and this is, like, catastrophic. Are we going to see a refugee crisis from China?
Yes.
Now, there isn't an obvious way for them to get to the West, so you think they're going to go into Southeast Asia? Like Vietnam and Laos and Burma?
Yeah. There's, like, sister cities between China and Vietnam.
The scale of the population transfer, though, that could very easily happen.
I mean, you would see like hundreds of thousands of Chinese going into Vietnam, maybe a few million.
Right, because some of these countries have large or like 30-40% Chinese anyways, and if you have a couple million more, that could really demographically change a lot of these places.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh, someone in the chat says what's going to happen is China's going to destroy itself and Mongolia is going to conquer the aftermath.
GG, good game.
But yeah, I don't know. It's not looking very good. So your prediction is you think this is the big one?
I think this is the big one. The reason I think it's the big one is because of when it occurred. It occurred during Lunar Festival or prior to Lunar Festival.
Right.
And now it's in there's confirmed cases in every province of China, isn't there?
Yes, I believe so.
And furthermore, the scale of the Chinese, if we can't know directly what China thinks is happening, because they're deliberately censoring and obscuring what's happening, we can judge by the severity of its actions how bad it is.
Oh, they're in full-blown panic mode.
If the Chinese government itself is in full-blown panic mode, something which it never entered in SARS, then I think this is much, much worse than SARS.
Well, and this is what we're seeing, that they're in panic mode externally in one of the countries in the world that has the heaviest censorship of the press. And we're still able to see this. Yeah, I don't know. It's not looking good, but I mean,
I think we're kind of circling the wagons at this point. We don't know that much more.
Yep, I think that covers it.
What do you think that's going to happen?
I actually don't know. I never like to say that this is going to be a like it, because there's been so many times in the past where I thought it was going to be it and it wasn't like happening.
Well, what did you think about this on Monday?
I hadn't even really heard of it.
Okay,
Monday.
Now on Saturday, how big a deal is this?
It's a huge deal.
Okay, I think that in itself is scary.
I think we'll have to see what happens in the next week.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the next couple of days, because this is at the point where it's going to start exponentially growing. Someone's asking if journalists are banned from Wuhan. I would be like shocked if they weren't.
I don't think there are journalists in Wuhan. Most of the stuff that's coming out on WeChat is like
Leaks.
Is leaks from people recording relatives that live there off WeChat.
Right.
It's not journalists.
Okay. So I think that about covers it. We'll just monitor this situation, and if some other stuff comes out, we'll maybe have you on again. But thanks for coming on, Serp. You knew a lot more about this than I did, and I'd been wanting to cover this, but there's just kind of so much going on. It's kind of hard to even get a handle on it.
Yeah. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully what happened in SARS will be contained within China itself, and it'll just be like 10,000 people. But judging by, I mean, it's unvertified, right? If that scale of growth is correct, this is the big one. That unpublished academic article.
Right. Okay, so thanks for coming on, everybody. I posted a link to Serp's channel in the chat in the description. Please go subscribe to his channel. He has a death metal video up about kind of a compilation of how crazy things are going there. So that being said, everyone stay safe. Have a happy Lunar New Year, and yeah, God bless.